Hi everyone, it's Vicky here today designing for Bramble Fox, and I am using the August Fox box. So I have a photo of my niece blowing bubbles. So I wanted to sort of do a circle background. So my idea was to do some watercolor circles. So I just grab out my little circle making tool and I draw several circles on the page. I don't know if you can see them very well, but I draw them quite lightly so that I can erase them later. But so I just go ahead and draw a few circles all over the background, random sizes, random places. And there we go, I think that's it. So what I'm going to do is paint each one with watercolour. So this is watercolour paper, so there's no gesso or anything, but it is specifically for watercolour, so that's what I'm using here. So I fill in each circle just with water, and my water gets progressively dirty, you'll see as I go along. And then I dip my brush in the paint and I put some in the water, and then it only spreads to the edge of the circle. So it sort of gives a nice watercolory effect, and I don't have to actually paint the circle, if that makes sense. So there we go. So I do 3 there with some pink, and the water's there first, so it's stopping it from going over the edges of the circle. Okay, so if you move the paper around, it helps to move it around to fill the whole circle as well. So I dab a bit up because there's a lot of water on there and I don't want it to take forever to dry. So I dab a bit of the water up and then just move it around a little bit more. Okay, and I'm going to put a little bit of yellow in each circle as well, just to add a bit of variation on the colour. So there we go, and I'll dab a bit more up. There's quite a lot of water that's gone onto this, but the watercolour paper is fine with it. So if you try this, just be careful with the paper you choose. If you put some gesso, it will do the same, but I have watercolour paper, so that's why I used it. Okay, so my next colour is going to be a teal colour. And I'm going to do another 3 circles in that colour. Okay, and I'm just going to leave these plain teal. I'm not going to add in another colour with it. A bit of the paint. Just let it spread on its own for a little bit and then help it along as well. And it will fill the circle. We'll find the natural edges of the water that you've put down. So I'm just going to again dab a little bit up because I don't want to leave them too wet. Move them around. Okay, and then the next colour I'm going to do is green. You see my water's getting a bit dirtier, so I should have done the lightest colour first, and I'm going to do some yellow in a minute. So I should have done those first, but I use some different water for those so that I don't have the really grimy water to deal with. Just be careful not to go over the edge. Sometimes it will leak into the circle next to it, so you just dab it up straight away. And if you've got gesso or if you've got watercolour paper, it will dab up fairly well. Okay, so that's my green one, another little green one there, and now I'll go with yellow. So you can see it's super easy what I'm doing, and it just gives that nice watercolour background. So rather than use pattern paper, I've created my own, I guess, in effect. My hair's a mess, don't look at that sticking through. Oh, what has lockdown done to us all? Okay, so here we go, yellow, and I've got the clean water as you can see there, so you can't see it going on as easily now. And when it leaked into that green little, I just mopped it up so that it wouldn't do that. Okay, so that's the last circle, putting the yellow in. And it leaked over to that one, wasn't too bothered because I already had yellow in that one, so that's quite a nice little happy accident there. So I'm just going to move it around a bit, and now I'm going to dry it with my heat tool, which I'll speed through, but heat tools give a nice effect if you dry with them, because you can move the water around that's left and it leaves some nice watercolour effects on the paper. So that will speed through, but you'll see what I mean in a second. So there we go, so we've got some nice little watercolour effects on the circles. So now I'm going to erase the lines that I drew as best I can. Some of them, if they're under the paint, they won't go, but most of them I kept within that line, so most of them will go. Okay, so nice clean background now. So the next thing I do, I have this stamp set from Vicki and it has lots of circular elements on. So I'm going to put some more circles on the background. And I'm using a stone grey StazOn ink. It's not quite black, it's a really, really dark grey. You could use black as well, but I like the just slightly less black than black. Especially when I do the solid one later, you'll see it's not quite so harsh as black. So I'm just sort of randomly putting these around the page as well, just to add to the circle mayhem. Here we go, that's these. There, you see that's the solid one. If that was black, it might be a little bit too dark. So I've got those, and then I have this Hip Kit stamp set, which has a really tiny little circle in it, and I put some of those on as well. So I've got lots of different variation on size of circles here. Lots of those. That's a really great stamp. I'll use that lots more. And I think the next thing I do is add some splatters, which are my tiny, tiny, tiny circles. So I add splatters in each colour on the corresponding circle that I painted. So that was the teal, then I'm going to do the green. I didn't do the middle green circle because my photo is actually going to cover most of that. So, and then the pink, and finally the yellow. So it gives me a nice, nice lot of circles on there, and the small ones help with the bubble effect, I think. So I just dry that off with my heat tool again, and I'll speed through that. Then I pull out my Big Shot, because I have the this Big Shot was kindly donated to me by my friend Maureen. Thank you, Maureen, if you're watching. And I have these die cuts from Bramble Fox as well, and they which are in the store, and they're new to Bramble Fox. So yeah, I decided to cut this little notepad piece and 3 stars out of this glitter cardstock, and I think it looks really pretty just peeking through. I don't need many embellishments on this because I think the circles are the main attraction here. So I just cut a couple of little things to peek out from behind the photo, and the stars are going to go in the middle of those circular bursts, like firework. They almost look like firework bursts. So I'm going to put some tissue paper on the back of my photo, just to give a softness between the photo and the background. And I will also raise that up on foam in just a second. So now this is embarrassing. This is where I think I'll put some flair on, and my flair had all fallen out into my pot, into my box, and I pulled them all out. And yeah, I have a problem because I have too many of them. So I'm going to use 3 on this layout, which is great, starting to use them. But the fun thing about this was, while I was doing it, I realised my edge distresser was in there as well, and I have been looking for that for forever. So I'm glad I found that. Happy days. So I pull out 3 pieces of flair, so that's good. I've used 3 of that enormous batch. Even if I used 3 on every layout, I'd still be putting flair on layouts for the next 6 months, I think. But here we go. So sticking those down. So they're circular, so they work perfectly. I'm going to stick those stars as well in the middle of the circles that I stamped. And I'm going to get a piece of thread and wrap it round into a circle to put behind this hooray piece of flair. So I've just put a couple of bits and wrap it around my fingers into a circle, and then put it down underneath. My glue has a bit of a malfunction, but I managed to get there in the end. There we go. That just adds a bit of extra texture there. So I have these sequins as well, which I thought would look really good. So there's some yellow ones in there, pink and blue. There aren't any green, but that's okay. I'm just going to colour code these, so put them tone on tone. we go. So I've got the 3 colours, and I put just a few around the page. Okay, that's that. Put those away. I think we're getting close to being done. I'm going to start to mount up my photo now. So I'm going to stick the little embellishments to the back just to poke out for an extra bit of interest and bling. And I'm going to put the foam, as I said, on the back just to pop it up off the page. There we go, and stick that down. And then my title is just going to stick to the photo. It doesn't actually stick to the page, even though I put some glue at the bottom, but it does stick to the photo. And it's the perfect colour for what she's wearing. And I've got the pink down at the bottom. So I think that is the final layout. Yep, there it is, the final layout. I hope it inspires you to pull out your watercolours and make some use of those. There are some close-ups coming up so that you can see close up how the watercolour looks and the stamping. And yeah, that's it. Thank you so much for watching. This has been Vicky for Bramble Fox. Bye bye.